I watched my husband clasp the diamond necklace around her neck, the one he swore was too expensive for me. That's when I knew he wasn't just cheating, he was replacing me. But what he didn't know, I was about to replace him too, permanently. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, stay with me. This story gets darker before it gets better. And if you love watching karma do its job, hit that like button now, because you're going to want to see how this ends. My name is Iris, and 2 months ago, I had what I thought was a perfect life. I'm 34, a marketing director at a firm I helped build from the ground up, and I was married to a man I believed loved me. His name was Donovan. Tall, charming, successful in finance, and the kind of man who knew exactly what to say to make you feel like the only woman in the world. We'd been married for 7 years, and I thought we were solid. I thought we were partners. I thought I knew him. Our 7th anniversary was coming up, and I'll admit, I got a little excited about it. 7 years is the copper anniversary, but I'd been dreaming about something more meaningful. There was this necklace I'd seen at a boutique downtown, delicate, vintage-inspired, with diamonds that caught the light like tiny stars. It cost $8,500, and I know that sounds like a lot, but we could afford it. Donovan made good money. I made good money. We weren't struggling. So one night over dinner, I showed him a photo on my phone and said, kind of shyly, that I'd love something like that to mark our anniversary. Something special. Something that said we'd made it through 7 years and we were still choosing each other. He barely looked at the screen. He just sighed, set down his fork and said, "That's excessive, Iris. We need to be practical. Maybe next year." And that was it. The conversation was over. I felt a sting of disappointment, but I pushed it down. He'd been stressed lately. Working late, always on his phone, distracted even when we were in the same room. I told myself he was going through something at work, and that I needed to be understanding. That's what good wives do, right? They give their husbands grace. Our anniversary came, and I spent the whole day hoping he'd surprise me. Maybe he'd been pretending to forget just to make the reveal more special. But when he came home that night, he handed me a small box with a sheepish smile. Inside was a bracelet, a plain, generic silver bracelet from a department store. I could tell by the packaging it cost maybe $200, and I could tell by the receipt tucked inside that he'd bought it that afternoon. Last minute. An afterthought. I smiled anyway. I thanked him. I even put it on and said it was beautiful, because I didn't want to ruin the night. I'd made reservations at our favorite restaurant, the one where he proposed to me 7 years earlier, and I thought maybe we could still salvage the evening. We sat down, ordered wine, and I tried to bring back the spark. I talked about memories, about us, about how far we'd come. He nodded along, but his eyes kept drifting to his phone. Halfway through dinner, it buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his whole face changed. Suddenly he was standing, pulling on his jacket, apologizing in that rushed, distracted way that made it clear he wasn't really sorry at all. "Emergency at work," he said. "I'll make it up to you, I promise." And then he left. He left me sitting there alone on our anniversary with half a glass of wine and a bracelet I didn't want. I paid the bill, drove home in silence, and told myself it was fine. It was work. It happens. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to look, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong. Not yet. 2 days after our anniversary, I had a charity gala for work. It was one of those big events where local businesses network and pretend to care about causes, while really just trying to close deals over champagne. I'd asked Donovan to come with me weeks earlier, but he said he couldn't make it. "Too much work," he said. "A big presentation the next morning." I believed him, because why wouldn't I? So I went alone, put on my best dress, and walked into that ballroom with a smile I didn't feel. I was halfway through a conversation with a client when I saw him. Donovan, my husband, the one who was supposedly drowning in work deadlines. He was standing near the bar, laughing, his hand resting on the small of a woman's back. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair swept up in an elegant twist and a red dress that hugged every curve. They looked comfortable together, too comfortable, like they'd done this before. My heart stopped. actually stopped. I felt the room tilt, felt my breath catch in my throat, and for a second I thought I might be sick. But then I saw it. The necklace. The exact necklace I'd shown Donovan on my phone. The $8,500 necklace he said was too expensive. It was hanging around her neck, glittering under the ballroom lights like a slap across my face. I stood there frozen, watching them, watching him lean in close to whisper something in her ear, watching her laugh and touch his arm in that way that wasn't professional, wasn't friendly, wasn't anything except intimate. He looked at her the way he used to look at me in the beginning, like she was the only person in the room, like she mattered. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. My legs were shaking too hard, and my vision was blurred with tears I refused to let fall in public. I turned and walked out of that gala as fast as I could without running, got into my car, and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself I'd seen it wrong, that maybe she was a colleague and the necklace was a coincidence, but I knew. Deep down, I already knew. When I got home, Donovan wasn't there, still working late, according to the text he'd sent an hour earlier, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I went into his office and I tore through everything. Drawers, files, his laptop bag, his coat pockets. I was shaking, crying, desperate for proof that I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong. I found hotel receipts, 6 months' worth. I found text messages he'd forgotten to delete, messages to someone saved in his phone as bells, messages that said things like, "You make me feel alive again," and "I can't wait to wake up next to you," and "Last night was incredible." Then I found the credit card statement. The necklace purchase was right there in black and white, $8,500, dated 2 days before our anniversary. He'd bought it for her before he even bought me that cheap bracelet. He hadn't forgotten our anniversary. He'd chosen to celebrate it with someone else. I screamed. I actually screamed, picked up his laptop and threw it across the room. It shattered against the wall and I collapsed on the floor, sobbing so hard I thought I'd break in half. But somewhere in the middle of that breakdown, something shifted. The sadness started to harden. It crystallized into something cold and sharp and dangerous. He didn't just cheat on me. He humiliated me. He made me feel small and disposable and not worth the effort. And that was unforgivable. I wiped my face, stood up, and made a decision. If he wanted to replace me, fine. But he was going to pay for it in ways he couldn't even imagine yet. Donovan came home at 1 in the morning. I was waiting for him in the living room with all the lights off, sitting in the dark like some kind of ghost. When he walked in, I flipped the switch and watched him jump. He looked guilty before I even opened my mouth. That's how I knew everything I'd found was real. "Who's Bellamy?" I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. He froze. For just a second I saw panic flash across his face before he smoothed it over with confusion. "What? Iris, what are you talking about? Bellamy's a colleague from work. Why are you sitting in the dark? Are you okay?" I threw the printed photos across the coffee table. Photos of him and her at the gala. Photos I'd pulled from the event photographer's website. "The necklace around her neck," I said slowly. "The one that was too expensive for your wife? Want to explain that?" He tried. God, he tried every trick in the book. He told me I was being paranoid. He said the photos were taken out of context. He claimed the necklace was a business gift, that she'd just gotten a promotion. Every word that came out of his mouth was a lie, and we both knew it. So I threw the hotel receipts at him, then the printed text messages, then the credit card statement with the necklace purchase highlighted in yellow. "Don't you dare lie to me!" I screamed. I was on my feet now, shaking with rage. 6 months, Donovan! You've been sleeping with her for 6 months and you bought her my necklace 2 days before our anniversary. That's when he changed tactics. He started shouting back, blaming me, saying I was always at work, always too tired, always putting my career first. "She makes me feel wanted," he yelled. "She actually pays attention to me. When's the last time you made me feel like I mattered?" I moved toward the door, toward anywhere that wasn't near him, and he grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to stop me, and something inside me snapped. I spun around and slapped him across the face as hard as I could. The sound echoed through the house. "Don't you ever touch me again," I said. My voice was ice. He stepped back, holding his cheek, shocked. I grabbed my keys and walked out. I spent the night at a hotel, and I didn't cry. I was done crying. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. I needed to know everything, and what I found out made it so much worse. Her name was Bellamy Hutchins. 26 years old, junior analyst at Donovan's firm, and she knew he was married. The investigator showed me social media posts she'd made to friends, messages where she called me the expired model, and said she was just waiting for Donovan to finally grow a spine and leave her. She wasn't some innocent girl who got caught up in something. She wanted my life. She wanted my husband. And she didn't care who she hurt to get him. I found a love letter she'd written him, tucked into his gym bag. It said, "When you finally leave her, we can stop hiding. I can't wait to be your wife. I can't wait to build a real life with you." That's when I knew what I had to do. I couldn't just walk away and let them win. I couldn't let them humiliate me and skip off into the sunset together. So I started planning. I played the role of the forgiving wife. I cooked dinners. I suggested couples therapy. I acted like I was willing to work through it, and Donovan, arrogant as ever, believed me. But while I smiled at him across the dinner table, I was quietly moving money out of our joint accounts into one he didn't know about. I was documenting every lie, every late night, every receipt. And I was building a trap that would destroy them both. The public humiliation at the restaurant was just the beginning. That night, Bellamy stormed out screaming, and Donovan sat there with his head in his hands while the entire restaurant stared. I walked out with my head high, divorce papers signed, and ready to file first thing Monday morning. And that's exactly what I did. I hired the best family law attorney in the city, a woman named Francesca Rain, who had a reputation for absolutely destroying cheating spouses in court. She was expensive, but I didn't care. I wanted blood. And Francesca? She delivered. We had everything. 6 months of documented affairs, hotel receipts with dates and times, text messages, photos, even testimony from the private investigator I'd hired. Donovan's lawyer tried to fight it, tried to claim we should split everything 50-50, but Francesca tore him apart. The affair violated the morality clause in our prenup that Donovan had insisted on years ago, ironically. He thought it would protect him if I ever strayed. He never imagined he'd be the one caught. Because of that clause and all the evidence we had, I got the house. I got 60% of our assets. I got a portion of his pension, and I got spousal support for the next 3 years. Watching him sign those papers was the most satisfying moment of my entire life. His hand was shaking. Mine wasn't. But the financial ruin was only part of it. Word spreads fast in professional circles, and it didn't take long for people at his firm to find out about the affair. Turns out, having a relationship with a junior employee while you're in a senior position is a massive ethics violation. Donovan was called into HR, investigated, and within 2 weeks, he was demoted. They stripped him of his title, cut his salary by 40%, and moved him to a completely different department where he'd have no authority over anyone. He went from being a respected executive to just another name on the roster. His colleagues stopped inviting him to meetings. His networking connections dried up. He became invisible. And Bellamy? The second his money and status disappeared, so did she. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she broke up with him 3 weeks after the demotion. She told people he'd misrepresented his financial situation and that she deserved better than a has-been. She moved on fast, started dating someone else within a month, someone richer, someone more important. Donovan was devastated. He tried calling me, leaving voicemails where he sobbed and apologized and begged for a second chance. I blocked his number. I blocked him on everything. He was dead to me. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was the necklace. The diamond necklace that had started everything. There was a note tucked inside, written in loopy handwriting. He couldn't afford to keep me happy either. You can have his leftovers back. It was signed with a little heart. Bellamy. I stared at that necklace for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it in the trash, but then I had a better idea. I took it to a jeweler, had it appraised, and sold it for $7,200. Then I donated every single penny to a women's shelter that helps survivors of emotional abuse, and I made the donation in Bellamy's name. Petty? Maybe. But it felt poetic. 6 months after that, my life had completely transformed. I got promoted to senior vice president at work. I moved into a sleek, modern apartment downtown that was all mine. New furniture, new art on the walls, a space that didn't have a single memory of him in it. I cut my hair, updated my wardrobe, and started actually living again. I went to dinners with friends. I traveled. I laughed. I remembered who I was before I spent 7 years shrinking myself to fit into his life. 1 year later, I found myself back at another charity gala. Same venue, same glittering ballroom, but this time everything was different. This time, I wasn't alone. I was there with Callum, an architect I'd met through work 6 months after my divorce was finalized. He was kind in ways I'd forgotten men could be. He listened when I talked. He remembered small things I mentioned in passing. He opened doors and pulled out chairs not because he thought I needed him to, but because he wanted to. And when he looked at me, I felt seen. Actually seen. Not like a trophy or an obligation, but like a person worth knowing. We were near the bar when I saw him. Donovan. He was across the room, alone, nursing a drink and trying way too hard to network with people who clearly didn't want to talk to him. He looked older, tired. The confidence he used to wear like armor had crumbled, and what was left was just a man who'd lost everything and couldn't figure out how it happened. Our divorce had gutted him financially. The affair cost him his reputation at work. He'd been demoted, his salary slashed, and the last I heard, he was barely scraping by in a 1-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town. Then I saw her. Bellamy. She was there too, draped on the arm of some silver-haired executive who had to be at least 60. She was laughing too loud, touching his chest, playing the same game she'd played with Donovan. She'd moved on to her next target, someone richer, someone more useful. Donovan saw her too. I watched his face twist with something between anger and heartbreak. She didn't even glance his way. And then he saw me. His eyes locked on mine from across the room, and I watched the realization hit him. He saw me in a stunning dress, glowing, happy. He saw Callum's hand resting on the small of my back, the way Callum leaned in to whisper something that made me laugh. He saw everything he'd thrown away, everything he'd never get back. For a moment, I thought he might come over, but he didn't. He just stood there, staring, holding his drink like it was the only thing keeping him upright. There was regret written all over his face, regret and envy, and the crushing weight of knowing he'd destroyed the best thing in his life for someone who never really wanted him at all. Callum and I left early. We had dinner reservations, and honestly, I didn't want to spend another second in that room. As we walked toward the exit, I glanced back one last time. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with peace, because I realized something in that moment. Donovan didn't take anything from me, he just revealed who he really was. And that was the greatest gift he could have given me, even if he didn't mean it that way. They say the best revenge is living well, but I think the best revenge is realizing you never needed them to begin with. Donovan gave my necklace to another woman, but in the end, she didn't get him, and he didn't get me. I got something better. I got my life back, my power back, myself back. And that's worth more than any diamond. If someone treats you like an option, show them what life looks like without you in it. You are not a placeholder. You are not second best, and you are never too expensive to be valued. Walk away from anyone who makes you feel like you're too much, because the right person will never make you feel like you're not enough. If this story hit home, or if you're cheering for me like I'm cheering for you, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because Karma, she's not done yet. Drop a comment and let me know. Team Iris or Team Karma? I'll see you in the next one.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.